The life of an artist in general is a difficult life. It's a very difficult life. I don't recommend it to anybody if you just think, oh, I'm going to do it because I think it's cool. All I know is that if you decide to go down this path as an artist, it's because you really, truly feel a calling. Where I actually felt some racism, where I actually heard the word for the first time, spick, And it boggles my mind, like, what's that all about, And I remember my mom saying to me, this is what you're going to get. There'll be people who, just because you speak differently, you look differently, you act differently, they're going to use that against you.
Hey, y'all. Welcome back to Through with a Splash of Tea, a podcast where conversation is key. Today, we have a very special guest. Today, we are honored to be joined by Sabrina Aviles, an award-winning independent filmmaker whose powerful storytelling has taken her across Latin America, Europe, and Canada. With over 25 years in the industry, Sabrina has brought us groundbreaking projects, including the Peabody Award-winning PBS series Latino American. Beyond her filmmaking career, Sabrina has been a passionate advocate for Latino cinema, having served as the executive director of the Boston Latino International Film Festival and founding the CineFest Latino Boston in 2022. Today, we'll dive into her journey, her creative process, and her dedication to amplifying diverse voices through the lens of documentary filmmaking. But first things first, I have to say thank you. Thank you for being with us today, Sabrina.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. I'm so excited to hear your story. I've heard a little bit we were just chatting a little bit, but I'm excited to discuss everything. But first things first, I want to discuss how your background has poured into the wonderful filmmaker that you are today. So let's talk a little bit about that.
I run CineFest Latino Boston, and I am a Latina. I identify as Latina here in the States because I am the first generation child of a Dominican mother, and my dad was from Puerto Rico. And I spend my summers growing up there, even though I was born and raised in Washington Heights in New York. But I was always aware of my Latino culture, my the Caribbean, and that's the food I grew up eating. That's the culture. That was my culture. And the Spanish was the first language that I spoke at home and still continue to speak to this day with my mom. And so that basically formed me. But growing up in New York, I was just Sabrina Aviles. I was the oldest of three. But when the neighborhood started to change a little bit and we moved to New Jersey when I was around 12, and it was the first time that I was actually where I actually felt some racism, where I actually heard the word for the first time, spick, And it boggles my mind, like, what's that all about, And I remember my mom saying to me, this is what you're going to get. There'll be people who, just because you speak differently, you look differently, you act differently, they're going to use that against you, So, but you have to prove to them that you are better than them. So unfortunately, it means you have to work 3 times harder. And see, she sort of ingrained that in us. So yeah, my sister, my brother, and I, we're the model students. We dressed really well. We were really conscious of being respectful to adult, and we did well. So that was my first lesson. And I think my second biggest lesson also was, again, I took for granted that I was Latina because it was just such a natural part of me. I didn't go around announcing it, also because my family, all my family was in the New York area. So it was just normal. It's a normal everyday thing. But when I went to college, went to college in Boston, graduated from Boston University. And at that point, when I started to look for jobs, then I also felt a different type of racism, sort of the microaggressions where people started to pigeonhole me. Like, oh, well, you're Latina, and that at that point, wasn't Latina, wasn't the word. It was like Hispanic. So I was hired because I was Hispanic, but then because I had my first job was because of the fact that I spoke Spanish. But even after that, they didn't see me beyond the fact that I was Hispanic. So all of a sudden, I wasn't just Sabrina Aviles, an aspiring filmmaker. I was Sabrina Aviles, the Latina, whatever, or the Hispanic, whatever. And for many years, I rejected um, uh, that label. I rejected it because I'm like, no, I was, what's the difference? There's no difference. Okay, fine. I culturally, there's differences. And yes, I speak another language, but I didn't embrace it. I didn't embrace it. And I don't know exactly when I started to embrace it. I think it was early on. I think it was when one of the jobs that I had while I was in school was in radio, WBUR with Jose Maso con salsa. He's been on forever. And he brought me in, and I'm actually officially I was the first female bilingual radio announcer in the history of Boston. He brought me in basically to read public service announcements during his 4 hours of Consalsa. And at that point, it was Friday nights and Saturday nights. So I was an intern, but I was also doing on-air work for him. And so at that point, he never outwardly said to me, this is your community. But I realized that already in the position that I was in, there was a certain responsibility I had towards my community. But again, I was very conflicted because, growing up in New York and growing up in New Jersey, I grew up in the suburbs. So yeah, I was exposed to the culture because of my family, but I grew up in suburban New Jersey where it was predominantly white. And so I adopted a lot of that. I integrated that into my own my own being. But again, then over the years, it was just like little things that happened that I said, and again, it was a series of microaggressions where people, again, getting my first job out of college, I actually worked at GBH, was unfortunately, I hate to say, it wasn't the best experience for me because, and I think there's a lot of people like me, people of color that had similar experiences where, again, they pigeonholed me into you can only do certain things, or you can only work on certain projects. Like they didn't see beyond the fact they didn't see beyond the fact that I was college educated, that I, graduated with honors, that I was really at any task that I was given, I did well. Nobody took me under their wings to mentor me because they saw me as less than. So I never had a seat at the table, as we say. And that's when I started to say to myself, and believe me, that whole experience there was quite dramatic for me. I had moments of like good experiences. It wasn't all negative, but I told myself, I don't know what's going to happen after this whole period is over, but if I'm ever in the position to mentor anyone, I will mentor Latinos and I will give them the opportunities that I was never given. And I had to hustle. And I had to hustle because I think anybody else would have just been broken by the system and just said, well, I guess I'm not. But and there were moments where I was like, well, I guess I'm not meant to be a producer. I guess I'm not meant to be a director or filmmaker. And this happened a lot through my career. Um, but there was always a little voice inside of me said, yes, you are. Yes, you are. Because I did see also that there were people that were doing better than I was, but I didn't feel like they had the standards that I would have had I been in their position. So that's a very long-winded answer to your question. So sorry I went off on a tangent, but anyway.
No, that's what we're here for.
Mhm.
Wow. Such a journey already. And we haven't even, I don't feel like we've scratched the surface yet.
Mhm.
I want to discuss filmmaking a little bit more. So, when did that passion or where did that passion derive from?
Well, I think it's a passion that I've learned to embrace again because honestly, when I went to college in high school, I had this bug to perform. I feel like I was always an artist first. And so I really wanted to be an actor. And actually, when I was looking at colleges, I even looked at BU thinking that I would audition to be in their school for the arts. But my parents were vehemently against it. They were like, no way, because here I was as like a straight A student. It's like, you want to study theater? Like, what is that? And again, like many, I think many Latino parents, it's like when they see their children excelling academically, they think doctor, lawyer, not no when in reality, I always stood out. Anything that I did artistically, extracurricular, whether it was painting, dancing, anything I did, and in theater, I was really, really good. And the teachers would tell my mom, she's really talented and she has this artistic bend. So I really wanted to be into theater, go into theater. But my parents, and my mother was like, no, we're not going to fund that. Like, if you want to do it, you pay for it on your own. So I don't think it didn't give me much of a choice. So I remember going to my guidance counselor. I was like, what do I want to do? And she said, well, you can maybe major in communications. I'm like, what's that? She's like, well, it's this and this. I said, okay, it's close enough. It's not in front of the camera, but it's behind the camera. So that's what I did. I got into BU and in their broadcasting and film program. And I was always a big film buff anyway. I devoured books on film history when I was in high school. Kind of a nerdy kid, So I loved film in general, and I knew probably more than the average 17 or 18-year-old. So I just thought, okay, well, let me give it a whirl. And I still did theater on the side. Um, but I was like intrigued by it and I enjoyed it. And then I was really lucky enough to, right after I graduated, landing a job at GBH, which is very rare these days. And so it started there. But again, my love for film, I always thought I was going to go the path of narrative film, making movies in Hollywood. But I soon found out a few years after I graduated that that was not a life I wanted to embrace. Because even now, it's crazy schedules, and again, in the days that came up, you basically became a slave to the industry, and I didn't love it that much to do it, and I also felt, um, I had worked at GBH on documentaries, and I felt like because of film itself, being a filmmaker, I felt that's kind of a there. What is the what are you giving back to society as a filmmaker? And I just thought it's kind of fluff. And but I love the fact that I discovered documentary at GBH because I really felt that here we were given the responsibility to educate and be storytellers with a purpose to educate, to enlighten. So that felt like, okay, I felt validated. So that's why when the little narrative that I did, even though it was interesting and fun, there was just something about documentary filmmaking where I thought, wow, I could probably never thought about changing the world, but more like educating people about what's going on. And at the same time, educating myself because I never was, I didn't grow up in an environment where my parents were politically active or community organizers. No, we were just like in this like little bubble, little Latina. I always say we grew up as saps, Spanish American princesses, we're like, dale la princesas. But I think that my journey with documentary really tapped into activize my social justice gene. And it's been like that ever since. I mean, and with I never consider myself a political person. And yet now people, when they talk to me, especially with what's going on, I'm like, I'm sorry I'm boring you, but I can't stay silent, And now I feel that as a filmmaker, again, we are, um, we are charged um, with documenting the truth and documenting truths and sort of dispelling all the myths and stereotypes, especially that the world has about, my people. And because it's everything you hear and see and read is just so much falsehoods. And so we're charged with that mission to, the only way we're going to get through this is by continually documenting the truth. Just because you say that Latinos are a certain way or that, African American history and everybody who served in the military of color, they non-existent. You can say whatever you want. So, but our mission, our charge, we are emboldened to tell you and document, to tell you otherwise, So I see it now more than ever, a, something that I'm very, very proud of and that I will continue to do, given, what's going on in this country.
Discuss CineFest for a little bit. How did that come about?
So CineFest came about in 2016. I became the executive director of Boston Latino International Film Festival, and I was there for about 6 years. And then I just wanted to take the festival in a different down a different path. And so suffice it to say that I had some creative differences with the founder. And so I just decided to say, okay, well, that's fine. I'll walk away. And then I just decided to found CineFest Latino Boston. So it was more that, again, I saw a different path for CineFest Latino Boston, and I didn't want to have to be what's the word, accountable to anyone, except maybe my advisors. So that's how that came about. It was just really a natural progression of just like, okay, and and right now it's an LLC that I'm the sole proprietor, but eventually down the line, as it grows and evolves, we'll probably end up, being a 501c3, although right now everything's so precarious, who knows what's going to happen. But for now, it's been fine and it's been great because it's, we're still very much in its infancy. I have some kind of unofficial advisors, but again, I'd love to get, a team together that will be either my team of advisors or board of directors, depending on the path that it's going. So I have a huge vision for the festival, and that hopefully, down the line, we can put some sort of business plan or strategic plan together that will delineate the path that we take, because to me, strategic plans create like a roadmap, instead of everything living in my head. It's like, okay, now we have this, and this is where this is the direction we're going to go into. Everything's on a little bit of a pause because it's so precarious in this country right now. The festival will happen this year, and actually, we never really have a theme, but I know what my theme is, and it's basically to show again the truths, that in our community we have undocumented immigrants who contribute greatly to society. We have a vibrant LGBTQ population. Really, the films that we're hoping to curate in many ways form a part of this resistance where we're saying, no, this is actually the reality. This is the truth. Just because the government says it's not true and it's bad and it's wrong, and no, we're going to say otherwise with the film. So that just came to me as I was going through, what films are out there, and I was like, oh wait, no, yeah, yeah, no, that's the pool. Yeah, it's my subtle, not so subtle way of standing our ground.
What are you working on now, film-wise?
Oh my goodness, what am I not working on? I think the biggest project right now is I just got hired after waiting for about a year and a half. We just got greenlit from the series PBS American Experience series to do a 1 hour, kind of like a 1 hour history of Puerto Rico and its relationship with the United States. The working title is called Last Colony. So, and we just got greenlit for 1 hour. So that is my primary job. But as an independent filmmaker, you take jobs that pay you. And I was really fortunate to take this on. But I'm also working on a couple of independent projects that we're still filming and raising money for. One has been a project that I've been working on with my colleague, Jenny Alexander, since the pandemic for 5 years, which is documenting the city of Chelsea, Massachusetts, and its challenges. It's told primarily through the eyes of three of its leaders and a fourth person who was in his time a youth leader. And we thought originally it was just going to be a short, and we were just going to document what's happening during the pandemic, but it's evolved to be, now hopefully a feature film. And in the 5 years that we've been filming there, Chelsea has been through a lot. And I would say that Chelsea is the primary character because we've documented the pandemic. We've documented, there was, some asbestos dumping near public housing by I can't remember. I think it's Department of Transportation, and now with the detentions of Chelsea residents. So just when we think that we're going to stop, something happens. So we've been doing that for 5 years now. And then the other film, which I also think is really, really relevant, and that the Chelsea film I'm co-directing and co-producing with my colleague Jenny. The other film that I'm just producing is a film, again, very topical, on a playwright, actor, artist who is on the spectrum. And their name is Harmon.Ott. And Harmon is also the co-director of this film with my other colleague, James Rutenbeck. And it's a beautiful film, a hybrid documentary, if you will. So there are elements of narrative and verite, documentary verite, and there's animation, and maybe I would even say there are like experimental elements, because we see it takes us on it's semi-autobiographical, and it takes us through the journey of Harmon and how they see the world, because Harmon is not only is he on the spectrum, and he was just diagnosed, and they were just diagnosed only a few years ago, but they also have synesthesia. So that means that you could hear colors or smell colors, or, like there's this cross wiring thing going on. So as a result, they grew up in, make sure you get the pronouns right. They grew up in rural Kansas as a young queer boy, and with these undiagnosed issues. And so, their life has been very challenged, if you will. But the film itself is a hopeful film because of where they are now. Successful playwright who's won awards. But again, it debunks that whole myth that we're hearing now very recently about how people on the spectrum don't contribute to society. And Harmon does so in the most brilliant way, despite their growing up with so much pain, So that's been a journey with that film, but it's my form of activism. These two films that I'm working on are so relevant, and we just came upon it. But again, these are stories that need to be told. So they're both really relevant. So we're hoping to continue to raise funds to finish them. So it's a lot. I'm doing a lot.
So much. And that's not even everything, but that's such a large contribution to society and like different communities. I love it so much. It's a lot. Externally of filmmaking. Well, no, I don't want to leave filmmaking just yet. I want to know who some of your favorites are when it comes to like directors or actors.
I think there's a lot, I'm exposed to a lot of documentary filmmakers, but they're not common names. I could tell you films that I've really enjoyed seeing. I think that having curated now, I believe I'm going into my 10th year of curating films. Of course, I came from a PBS background, and PBS is a great training ground, but they definitely have a specific visual language, which is changing, but it's very standard fare, if you will, and I'm not referring just to like Ken Burns, but having been exposed to the films that are being made in Latin America and in Europe, oh my goodness, it's a completely different trajectory, I was going to say it in Spanish, trayectoria. And that has absolutely inspired me as a filmmaker, and I have inspired away, we're filming Chelsea, and then I have a couple of other films in mind about how I'd like to approach it, which is really based on, the films that I've been seeing over the years. So I think there's just wonderful films that even here, like there's this brilliant filmmaker. Her name is Cecilia Aldarondo, and she's of Puerto Rican descent. And she made a wonderful film called Landfall about Puerto Rico, but I can't even do it. I won't even try to summarize it because I won't do it justice. But it's again one of those films that has really inspired me. Brilliant film. Some Latin filmmakers. There's this wonderful filmmaker who's lives in Mexico, but she's of Salvadoran ancestry. Her name is Tatiana Hueso, who did a film, I would say maybe about 9 or 10 years ago, called Tempestad, where it was not a character-driven film. It was basically everything was in voiceover. And it was a couple of women recounting they were kidnapped by the police that were working with cartels and incarcerated. And so the woman in the film never appears, but she tells her narrative, and then you see just images that sometimes correlate to her story and other times don't. So you have to be really patient with these films, really patient, because I always say that the films are not, if you want fast food or commercial films, you're not going to get it at CineFest. There are some that are much more, they're easier to watch and follow, but films like Tatiana's Tempestad and other films that I've shown in the past, you have to sit and think about it. And those films are the ones that inspire me. And in terms of like narrative films, when people ask me, what's your favorite film? Without a doubt, it's like The Godfather.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah. The Godfather. And then up there in The Godfather is 1 and 2. And I also I'm not a horror film fan, but it's not horror, science fiction. It's Alien.
Oh, wow.
The original Alien.
That's an OG.
Yeah, very OG. I also loved the original Blade Runner.
Oh, wow.
With Harrison Ford. There was one also, a foreign film that I can't remember it now. Oh, I think it was called, oh man, I have to say, again, I was in film school and I was blown away by it. I want to say it was called Diva. It was a French film. And it was kind of a thriller. But the soundtrack, it was about this, I can't remember the exact story, but it had kind of this real cool look to it, the way it was shot. But one of the protagonists was an opera singer, hence the name Diva. I think that's the name of the film. But I loved that they used this really cool kind of MTV style. I grew up, mind you, when the early days of MTV, where that was like the coolest thing you could do, MTV style film juxtaposed with this beautiful, rich operatic soundtrack. And I was like, what? Yeah. So those are the ones that come to mind. I mean, obviously there's so many, so many, and I can't even keep track. I'm dying to see Sinners now with Ryan Coogler, because I just think he's a brilliant filmmaker. So good. He's so good.
It's like some brains. It's like, how did we, even the trajectory of like what he's done over time. It's like, Ryan, how did we get here?
Yeah. It's so good. So good.
Yeah.
So brilliant.
Yeah.
I love that.
Definitely.
Yeah. So it's, I'm still inspired by film. I love watching film. I tend to watch, because I watch so much documentaries and I'm in the documentary world. If I want to relax, I always go for narrative film. you know, or series. And my daughter said to me, "You need to see Last of Us." And so we binge watched Last of Us because she's a gamer. And I was hooked. I was hooked.
Yeah,
That was good. And I was hooked on Pedro Pascal. That's a running joke. I'm like, Pedro, Latino, hello. Yeah, that's the running joke.
Very handsome man. And did you know that he has like bad anxiety?
I didn't know that.
He has bad anxiety. So like on red carpets, I don't remember the other main character's name, but like if he's having anxiety bad, he'll like put his hand on under his chest.
That's really funny because I've seen a lot of shots with him doing that.
And then if she's there with him, she'll sometimes put her hand over his.
Yeah.
So like to help him like calm down. It's so nice.
Interesting. I have friends who were casting. I don't know if they're doing it that much anymore, who were in their time were casting agents in New York. And they were around where people like Zoe Saldana, Jennifer Lopez, Benjamin Bratt, all these, Modesto Lacen, who you don't know, but he's kind of is like a B-list actor in Puerto Rico that he's Afro-Puerto Rican, wonderful actor. And so like all these people, they saw them coming up and Pedro was one of them. And just like, and they, of course, they have all these war stories, but you know, he is the person that you see. He is as humble and as as nice as you see him depicted on shows and all that, and that's always nice to hear. Yeah,
I love that because you always think there's like this is too good to be true. Like he seems so nice or whatever, but no,
he is very, very genuine. And you know that he has a trans sister, right?
No,
his sister's trans. Yeah.
Oh wow, so much.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that he seems like he's a good
egg. He's a good egg.
Yeah, he's a good egg.
You know. And despite everything, despite how open he is, he's still very private because we don't really know that much about him.
Yeah.
Oh my God, we're getting into a little pop culture here.
Just a little bit.
Love it. I'm secretly, as much as I'm into like, experimental, like films that are really challenging and all that. I'm such a pop culture.
Yeah.
I'm totally into pop culture.
You love it?
Yeah, I do. Like in terms of film, you know.
Yeah.
But good pop culture, you know, like I like watching things that are well done on streaming series or well written. Like I love Succession. Oh, I loved Succession. I just love good writing and good acting. Yeah, exactly.
Good writing and good acting.
Yeah.
I will watch 18,000 seasons of it.
The Bear is the other one. So you need to watch The Bear. I watched The Bear. I'm like, brilliant.
Is that the cooking one?
Yeah.
I need to. Everyone keeps talking about this FX show.
Brilliant.
The Bear.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. So yeah, I just, you know, again, going back to, I have such high standards. I don't have patience for schlock.
Oh my goodness. My best friend will tell me all the time. She finds it so weird that I would rather rewatch something that I know and that I've seen like a million. I'd rather rewatch it than to try something new. And I'm like, I just wasted an hour at least.
That's why I've watched Godfather. I don't even know how many times Godfather, because it's a brilliant piece of filmmaking, you know?
So good.
So the way it was directed, the script, the way it was acted, just the nuance. I love it.
So good.
Yeah, very good.
So good. It makes you appreciate, like when you come across something that's good, like I recently saw Sinners, and you're like, you appreciate it so deeply. Like, thank you for doing this.
Right, exactly.
Because we're in the day and age where you can make an easy buck. You can make it a quick thriller, a quick action movie. You get your few millions, you call it a day. But I'm sitting there watching the screen like, dang, like I can see you just did this for, you know, the finances.
Exactly.
Good writing is good writing.
Yeah.
I want you to give people a bit of advice. People that are interested in entering the arts, the film industry, and they feel a little like it's too hard, like it's out there, like it's untangible.
It's not an easy career, you know, and there's a lot of days. I mean, literally, I wish I could say if I had chosen law or medicine and all that, yeah, I would probably have a beautiful. I love my little condo, but I would have a beautiful home, maybe a second home, and and this security and a big pension waiting for me for when I retire. But the life of an artist in general is a difficult life. It's a very difficult life. I don't recommend it to anybody if you just think, oh, I'm going to do it because I think it's cool. All I know is that if you decide to go down this path as an artist, it's because you really truly feel a calling. There's no other way. There's no other way to explain it. There's no rational way to explain it because could I be making six figures a year? Yeah, and there are some like all artists, there's that 1% of artists, of filmmakers, of dancers, of painters, of actors that make the millions and the deals. But for every one of those person, there are thousands that are just struggling to get by or do their art on the side and then try to do work to supplement the little money that they make as an artist. And when I say artist, because as we spoke before, I also live in the world of dance, and it's not a sustainable. Are we trying to change it? Of course, we're trying to change it, but it's slow going. And it's also because as a country, we don't nurture the artists or art. We don't see it as a necessary thing. Unlike countries in Latin America and Europe, this is like this. No, this is part of our cultural heritage. So we need to support art and artists. We don't see it in this country. And then that changes state by state. And the little federal funding that was available to artists now, as in the form, filmmakers specifically, is in the form of National Endowment for Humanities. A couple of weeks ago, a whole bunch of my colleagues got a letter saying, your grant has been rescinded. So it just, so like I said, I wouldn't recommend it. But if you're an artist and you're passionate about your art, you're not going to listen to me. And you just have to know that, if you're thinking that you will be that 1% or less than 1% that will get you, going back to Pedro Pascal, he was a working actor for many, many, many years. And he's only recently come to fame. I guess he came to fame in his 40s, And that's wonderful, but it doesn't happen that often. So, but again, I think we do it because we're passionate about our art, because we have to, it's part of our breath. It's part of our living. Like I said before, I have two arts, my filmmaking and my dance. Don't ask me to choose. My dance, even though I'm not performing professionally that much anymore, it feeds my soul in a way that nothing else does. It feeds my soul. And if you take that away from me, me apago. I shut down, or else I'm like looking like, what, something's missing, something. Oh, wait. I just went last year. I went to this very famous festival in Jerez de la Frontera in Spain, in the province of Cádiz. Flamenco festival happens every year, and it's like 2 full weeks of performances, all types of performances, theater performances, little tablao performances, and then workshops, dance workshops. Not only ones conducted by the festival, but neighboring schools also have. They take advantage of the fact that, the world comes to Jerez for 2 weeks and they offer classes. And these are master classes with some of the biggest and brightest rock stars of flamenco. And I remember I went there for the first time last year, and posting pictures left and right. And my kids said to me, "Ma, we've never seen you so happy." And I was incomplete because I was like, okay, I'm not doing any film, not working. I was there. I actually went there for 3 weeks. And I was in bliss. I died and went to heaven, And again, I can't really explain it to a person who's not an artist, but if you're an artist in any way, shape, or form, there is a Mecca here that you're like, this is my Mecca, And for me, that was one of my Meccas, So yeah, it's really rough. I mean, by default, most people, what they do, like I said before, is they continue practicing their art and then they find either a full-time job or a job that allows them to pay their bills, but also continue practicing their jobs. And for filmmakers, that's usually getting work for hire or commissioned work, And if we're lucky enough, if you're lucky enough, I've been lucky that I've always worked in the industry. So most of the time, I've either worked as an employee in the industry or commissioned. The last couple films I made were commissioned pieces, and that's nice because again, helps to pay the bills because independent filmmaking is not for the faint of heart, and for artists. But again, you just love it. And let me tell you, when I'm out there documenting what's going on in like places like Chelsea, there is this great feeling of pride and responsibility that you can't that is incomparable, and you're like, "Are we doing the right thing? Are we doing the right thing?" So
It feels good.
it totally feels good. Totally feels good, but it's even more than feeling good. It feels right. It's like, again, it's that going back to what I said before, it's like somebody has put me in this situation charged with this position to eventually document this story and get it out to the world. And if I'm lucky enough, I'll get it out on a PBS station so millions will see it. If I'm not, then we finish the film and hold community screenings and institutional screenings and maybe even get a small streamer like Canopy to pick it up, so it is available to institutions and educational institutions and any nonprofits for free. So there are all these avenues, and now, again, I was just thinking about, there's conversations in the industry about what is all of this that's happening now? What is that going to lead to? If PBS on the line, if CPB gets defunded, what's the future? What does that mean for the future of PBS and distribution and all of this? But I think that there's that saying that says necessity is a mother of invention. I think this is the time where again, our charge is to document the truth, continue documenting the truth, and then find other avenues. If it's not PBS, then what is it? Is it YouTube? Maybe it is YouTube, Find other avenues to tell, to disseminate the work and continue to do so despite the obstacles that we may face, May not be lucrative, but again, I don't think any artist does it for the money. Those that say, "Oh, wow, I want to earn $1 million." I'm like, you kind of have to question their ulterior motive because I think most artists do it because it's like scratching an itch. It's like filling a void. It's that connection to soul and heart. So you don't do those things for the money. It's not to say that when the time comes, you shouldn't ask to be paid because, the art and the work you has to have value, So I'm not one also to say work for free. No, tampoco. No.
So I want to ask you our final question that I ask all my guests. They have one closing question. So I created this platform for people to learn. I think knowledge is like the number one thing. Like it's so important. So I created this platform for that. So I always ask my guests, what is one thing that you wish more people knew? And that could be in regards to the arts, yourself, the world, just in general. What's your little nugget that you wish that more people knew?
Of course, the first thing that comes to mind is just what's going on in this country right now. Yeah, I think it's more civically engaged, more knowledgeable about their responsibilities and roles as citizens, and what the roles and responsibility of the government are. I wish more people read. I think we're in Massachusetts and we live in a little bubble. But as I've traveled a lot. And I travel a lot in the United States. It is a bit alarming to me how state by state, how people see things very differently, which to me is like so like what? It's so clear. Like what? Like I can't believe you just said that, you know? Um so but so I think that's the biggest thing. It's like, I have friends and family that voted for the dark side. I'm with the force. Um, and but the reason they voted is because they believed the lies. And I think I always used to say, even when I was young, even before any of this happened, and my mom came from the Dominican Republic, 30 years of a dictatorship, Trujillo. And I saw it over the years how all these little dictators rose up in Latin America and all over the world. And I remember thinking at one point in my life saying, well, it makes sense that these dictators would rise because it doesn't, the dictators, it's to their own advantage to keep the masses ignorant, you know, because that's what they play upon. They trust that these people who don't have critical thinking skills and take everything at face value are going to take what is ever told to them. Whereas, I think, again, being in the Northeast, especially being Massachusetts, you know, and Boston being the intellectual capital of the United States, maybe I don't know if that still holds true, but um, that for us to question authority, to me, that is like, I'm not going to just do what you tell me to do. I'm not going to value. And also I think coming from a PBS background where, I'm a documentary filmmaker, but, when you get your schooling, if you will, in PBS, you are really a journalist. So you have to research and provide primary and secondary sources, and make sure you get the facts straight. So all of that's been my career. So for me, it's like, why aren't more people like that? Why don't more people read, but why don't more people question, you know? But, so I think, yeah, civically, be more civically engaged. And I also think, I think also, again, I think artists are the exception in that I'd like to think that most artists, they see we're here as artists because we see the humanity in things. And I think that many people have lost that, you know, because I think that the decisions that are being made and are being accepted it's not based on, they're not humane responses, you know? And so it's hard to think that after all these years and everything that we thought we were, that I guess we really weren't. But I'm sure there are a lot of people in within our society, it says, well, I'm not surprised. My mom is one who says it. She's like, well, I'm not surprised because she's faced the racism even here as a young woman coming in the 1950s. So she says, este país siempre ha sido racista. She says, this country has always been racist. So I'm not surprised. She is and she isn't, you know. So yeah, I just wish people would, you know, and you don't have to go to college, but read more and question more. Question more. You know? Yeah, question more. Because I think also as artists, that's what we do all the time. We question, and that's what motivates us to execute, you know, and create, you know, and explore, you know. And a lot of people they just take things at face value. That's the difference.
Good.
Thank you.
That was a great response.
That was like off the top of my head kind of thing. I got very philosophical.
Yeah.
But I think I get philosophical because it's really, to me, you know, what's happening currently happening in this country is very personal. It's very, very personal, you know. And it's, you know, if you'd asked me 20, 25 years ago, would you stand up? I'm like, I know I would run. Now I'm like, no, I'm standing up. Yeah, standing up.
Yeah.
And if you want to put like handcuffs, go right ahead, you know. So
here's what you're passionate about something. We have to deeply value something.
Oh yeah.
Some things, like as we're on this journey, we have to find things that we deeply value and we're willing to stand for.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's yeah. I'm trying to get that through my younger son is like, oh, he's only 24. My daughter is starting to see like, Ma, are you going to protest next time? And I'm like, because I haven't been able to yet because of other commitments. I'm like, yeah, will you go out with me? And she's like, yeah, I think, yeah. If I have to work, I'll go, you know.
I love it.
So
I love that.
So
thank you for coming.
Thank you, Cass. Thank you for having me.
Your story. I really loved it.
Yeah.
And that's all, folks. Thank you for watching if you watched. Thank you for listening if you listened. You can catch Through with the Splash of Tea every Wednesday and Thursday on all streaming platforms, including YouTube. Bye now.